Let your glory now invade. Spirit, come and fill this place. Let your glory now invade. Spirit of the living God, come fall fresh on me. Come wake me from my sleep. Blow through the caverns of my soul, pour in me so so, so kind to me. Totally overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Totally chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't turn it. I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. So good to me. When I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Totally overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Totally chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99, and I couldn't turn it. I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Totally overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of shadow you will light up, mountain you will climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you will light up, mountain you will climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you will climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't
Can't afford a leaf blower? Getting to ya? Check this out. Add some ice to your fan for a homemade air conditioner.
She's so cool. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist that little pun there. You know, my fan, the fan one, the leaf blower, I think that's my favorite so far. Nice job with that. That's pretty awesome. Hey, today is going to be a great day. I can guarantee, you know, because God is here, right? We're in His presence. We get to celebrate with each other. It's going to be just a fantastic day, and I'm so glad that you're here today. In fact, today you get a special treat. You get to hear from some of your peers. That's right, we're going to do a little panel discussion here in a little bit and kind of discuss the value and the importance of living life in biblical community. And that's really what our life hack is today. We're in the series called Life Hacks, and hopefully by now you know what a life hack is, right? A life hack is just the definition we've been using anyway. It's just a simple solution to a common problem. That's what a life hack is. Simple solution to a common problem. But a spiritual life hack, which is what we're talking about, they're spiritual solutions to common problems. You know, there's issues, things that we struggle with, and there are solutions to that. And so far, we've looked at a few different life hacks. The first week, we looked at Bible intake, and we looked at prayer, and we've also looked at unplugging. And of course, those are kind of just some general categories, and even within each of those general categories, there's been several different practical things that we can do for each of those. And so hopefully those have been helpful for you and you've been able to apply them. I know a number of you, you're applying those things, and that is awesome. And I think that you're seeing growth, aren't you? You're seeing things happen. You're seeing some solutions to some of the problems that maybe you used to have. And it is awesome how God uses these spiritual disciplines to strengthen us. And we've said right from the beginning that when we are strengthened spiritually, it affects everything about us, everything about our life. It affects all these things. So it's an awesome opportunity for us. Now, the first three life hacks that we've looked at, they have something in common. Maybe you didn't pick up on it, but they did have something in common. One of the things that they had in common is that they were all very personal. Those three are very personal, that they're private. You know, those spiritual disciplines are personal and private. So for the next couple of weeks, we're going to talk about some other life hacks, some other spiritual disciplines that are more interpersonal. They rely on other people. They're things where we get other people involved in how the things that the spiritual disciplines that we'll talk about for the next few weeks, they involve other people. So some of them are personal, and then others are interpersonal. And so today's is going to be one of those that is very interpersonal. And so far we've been talking about these life hacks, and they've been, there's probably hasn't been anything that's really surprised you, I'd imagine, you know, as far as what these spiritual disciplines are. But today, as we talk about biblical community as a spiritual discipline, that may be a surprise to you, because it doesn't often show up in a list of spiritual disciplines, but it really is one. It is, maybe you've heard it referred to as fellowship, depending on what term you want to use, but it really is a spiritual discipline, biblical community. In fact, this week we have another Bible reading for you on YouVersion, so go ahead and get your phone out. It's okay to get your phone out in church, just use it for the right thing, right? You know, so on YouVersion, we've got another plan for you. It's this one. It's called Authentic Fellowship. Authentic Fellowship by James MacDonald. A few weeks ago we did one, I think it was called Authentic Fasting. It's kind of the opposite picture. I'm sure the authentic fasting one didn't have a table of food. So this week we're talking about fellowship or biblical community. So check this one out. I think it's a 7-day one. It's really good. It'll help you to understand and apply this biblical value of authentic community. So this really is a godly habit, and it has the incredible power to change our lives. It really does. We'll talk about that throughout today. In fact, this life hack of biblical community, I believe that it affects all the other life hacks that we've talked about. And it affects all of these things for a couple reasons. One is that when you're in biblical community, it gives you the motivation and the encouragement to follow through with the disciplines that you know that you need to make. Let's face it, disciplines aren't easy, right? These things aren't easy. The things we've been talking about, they're kind of counterintuitive. They require effort and work, otherwise it wouldn't be called a discipline. So sometimes we need encouragement from other people. And this is where biblical community comes in, is it provides us some of that horsepower and that motivation to actually do the things that we're talking about. How many of you have ever been in church yeah, you can raise your hand now. You ever been in church? Okay, that wasn't the question. How many of you have ever been in church and you were inspired to do something and then you just never did it? Does that happen to anybody? Yeah, all the same hands. That's right. It's like, yeah, that's something I'm going to do sometime, right? And sometimes we just lack that motivation. So this is where biblical community can help us and take the things that we're talking about, things that we want to do, things that we know we need to do, and it can help us to actually apply these things. So this is so important for us. So, in fact, it's so important for us that as a church, we've made it one of our highest values. As a church, we talk about core values in our church. This is one of our core values. In fact, our core value of community says this. I think it says this. It talks about community, that life is better connected. That we believe that life is better connected. In fact, this is a statement that we talk about when it comes to community. That we strive to build a community of people who are relationally connected with each other throughout the week. At OCC, we believe that circles are better than rows. You know what I mean by that? You're sitting in rows right now, and I love that. You know, I'd be so disappointed if nobody showed up. You know, that's like one of my fears. You know, I have one of these dreams. You know, you get there, it's like there's nobody there, and you're like, I hope it's Saturday. Anyway, so rows are a good thing, but circles, when you're eyeball to eyeball with somebody else, and you're discussing things, you're having conversations, and that circles are better than rows because spiritual growth happens best when we are connected with other believers. We long to be a church of community groups. In other words, we don't want to just be a church with community groups. We don't want to just have some groups as another program or something that we do, but we want to be a church of community groups where people know, love, care for each other while serving one another. So we value this. This is something that we have tried to incorporate into our DNA as a church. Biblical community. Go ahead and turn to Galatians chapter 6. Galatians chapter 6. If you will, for a little bit. We're going to be there for just a few minutes. Galatians chapter 6. If you're using one of our Bibles, it's page 946. 946. If you don't have a Bible, take that Bible home with you. We'd love for you to have God's Word in your house. So Galatians chapter 6. And as you're turning there, I want to go over something that is a crucial point. Something that we need to understand. And it's this, is that you were designed for relationships. You were created for relationships. In fact, way back in the Garden of Eden, right at the very beginning in Genesis 2:18, it says this, that the Lord God said, it is not good for man to be alone. Now picture this, it's not good for man to be alone. God has placed Adam in this perfect environment. Everything is flawless. Okay, there's no sin, there's no death, there's no disease, there's no suffering. Everything is good. In fact, you read through the creation account, it says, it is good, it is good, it is good, it is good. And then there's one spot that says something's not good. And where that happens is God says, it is not good for man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. It says, we need relationships. We were created for community. It's part of our design. And it's better than that. It's not just part of our design, it's for our benefit. It's for our benefit and for the benefit of others that we are in community. In fact, Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verses 9 through 12 says this. It says, the two are better than one. We know this, right? Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. Then he says He says it gets better than that if either of them falls down, one can help the other up. A pity on the one who has no one to help them up. You ever been in that situation? You're like, man, I really could use a hand. Man, I wish somebody could lift me up. I really need I'm struggling here. In fact, that word pity, that's a word that's kind of stuck with me for a while. One of the reasons why I'm so passionate about community groups is because I'm in one. Okay? It's because I've experienced it. It's because I've seen the value of it. And it's been something that's been so helpful for me. In fact, I tell our group all the time, and even one a few months ago, we made a difficult decision that we needed, our group was growing so much, and we wanted to help other people get into a group. That our group actually multiplied and formed a couple groups, and it was painful. It's one of those things like, I don't want to do that. But the reason that we did it is because we wanted to make room so that more people can experience what we've experienced. Okay? And I pity people that don't have that experience. It's like, man, we've got to get everybody in our church in one of these groups. And I know some of you, you're resisting it. So hopefully you'll give in, okay? Because we're not giving up. So pity anyone who falls and does not have someone to help them up. And then he says this, also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. That's awkward. Let's just move on. But you've got to imagine that this is a culture, they don't have heat readily available at all times. In desperate times, desperate situations. So two lie down, they can keep warm. But how can one keep warm all by themselves or warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. And he says a cord of 3 strands is better than just 2, 3. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. So there's importance in it. We're designed for community, and it's for our benefit. So Galatians chapter 6 gives us some reasons why biblical community is such an important and powerful and essential life hack. In fact, this is an essential life hack for any Christ follower who takes their relationship with Jesus seriously. And let me pause right there. If you don't take your relationship with Jesus seriously, you might not be a Christ follower. Just throwing that out there. That was free. You may need to chew on that a little bit later on today. But we need to take our relationship with Jesus seriously. And so if he says, hey, here's something that's going to help you, it's going to be for your benefit, it's for the benefit of others, it's going to be something that you need to apply to your life, then we should lean in and listen. God, what is it that you want from me? So let's listen in on what Paul tells this group of Christ followers in the ancient city of Galatia. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 1, he says, brothers and sisters. So he's talking to the family. I love you guys, like family, brothers and sisters. If someone is caught in sin, you who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. But watch yourselves, or you may also be tempted. He's saying, listen, your role as brothers and sisters, as family, is to live in biblical community. And it's to restore people who are struggling with ungodly habits, to restore people that are struggling with sin. Notice he's not saying, listen, if somebody's struggling with sin, you need to ditch them. You need to get as far away from them as possible. If somebody's wounded, you don't shoot them. And unfortunately, Christians in churches have developed a terrible reputation for shooting their wounded. We need to reverse that. We need to run towards the mess rather than running away. So he says, listen, somebody's struggling with sin, you go to them, you help them, and you gently bring healing, you restore them. I mean, what if we could get that down? Think about it. What if the church, not just the church in America, but what if this church could get that down? If we could just do a much better job at restoring things that are broken, at healing things that are wounded through the power of Christ, at loving people that are struggling. Imagine the difference that would have. I mean, that would be huge. Imagine how much more quickly we could get over sin issues. I'm going to ask a trick question, so I'm just telling you ahead of time. How many of you struggle with sin? The trick part is everybody should raise their hand, because sin is a struggle for all of us. No, actually, I don't struggle with sin. I'm good at it, No, that's not what I meant, okay? I mean, we all struggle with sin. There's things that we struggle with. From here to the very back. Every one of us, we struggle with sin. In fact, a few months ago, we did a series called Messy Grace, and we mentioned that rather than pointing fingers, we ought to be raising our hand and just admitting, hey, we struggle too. We need to raise a hand rather than point a finger. And if we don't help people overcome their struggles with sin, then who will? So he tells us, brothers and sisters, if someone is caught in sin, you who live by the Spirit, you who are growing in your faith, you need to help other people. You who live by the Spirit should restore that person gently. And there's a key word there, to do it gently. We're not good at that sometimes, right? And he says, but watch yourself, or you too may be tempted. Now, I read that verse, and all of a sudden, I think there's a little bit of tension that just, it's like, there's some tension there. Don't you feel that tension? You read that verse like, ugh, there's that sin word. I don't like that word sin. In fact, when I'm reading this, I'm like, can we just talk about another verse? I like grace, I like mercy and sin. I don't like that word. But, the more I think about it, and the more I've kind of looked into this, sin isn't the key word in this verse. The key word is to restore. Restoration is the key. We're not to ignore sin, but we're to restore. Kind of rhymes, right? Not ignore, but restore. But do it gently. And then he tells us in verse 2, Galatians 6:2, he says, carry each other's burdens. Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ. If you're looking for like 3 points, here, the first one would be restore. The second one would be carry. Okay? I know you're like, I gotta have 3 points because it's church. Right? So the first one would be restore, the second would be carry. Carry each other's burdens. Carry each other's burdens. You ever had a burden that was way too heavy for you to carry, and yet you tried to carry it all by yourself anyway? That happens, right? How's that working out for you? How's that working out for us? So, it's painful, it's discouraging, it's hard, it's traumatic, it's something that is overbearing, it's something that's just like weighing on you, and yet we still try to carry it ourselves. See, this is where biblical community comes in. He says we need to carry each other's burdens. We need to help each other out. This is so key. And it gets better than that. He says, and when you do this, and when you carry each other's burdens, when you do that, you know what you're doing? You're actually fulfilling the law of Christ. Let me pause just for a minute. We need to allow other people to help carry our burdens. Because they are designed by God, and they're put into our lives to help us carry our burdens. We need to allow people to help us carry our burdens, rather than just being too proud, saying, no, I got it myself. I don't want you to get messed up with this. You're keeping them from fulfilling the law of Christ when that happens. What's the law of Christ? Here's the law of Christ. The law of Christ is to love one another. That's what it is. If you're wondering, what is it? What is the law of Christ? It's to love one another. Jesus said it in John 15:12. My command, sounds like a law, right? My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. He doesn't just say it in one place either. He says it in John 13 as well. John 13, he says, a new command I give you, to love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. He's saying, listen, this is the new law. The new law of the land is that you love each other. And it wasn't just Jesus that said that. Listen to what Paul says to the church in Galatia. Just a few verses earlier than where we're at in Galatians 6. Listen to what he says in Galatians 5. He says, you, my brothers and sisters, so he uses this term of endearment again. You, my brothers and sisters, were called to be free. But do not use your freedom to indulge in the flesh. Rather, serve one another humbly in love. For the entire law is fulfilled in keeping this one command. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's the law of Christ. In fact, Jesus was cornered that one time, remember? He was cornered and some people wanted to trick him and like, okay, so what's the greatest law? And he says, here it is. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And the second one's like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commands, the entire law rests. It's love. It's to love each other, to carry each other's burdens. And when we do that, we're fulfilling the law of Christ. So we restore, we carry, and then the third one is to encourage. To encourage each other. Listen how Paul tells us that we're to encourage each other in Galatians 6. 9 and 10. Got to tell you, these are some of my favorite verses, along with a list of others. But Galatians 6, 9, and 10, seriously, is one of my favorites. He says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity." How many of you think sometimes you have opportunity to help people? How many have more opportunities than you take advantage of? Same hands. We have so many opportunities. So he says, as we have opportunity, let us do good. This is the way that we encourage each other. We do good. We encourage them. Let us do good to all people, whether it's a good word or a good deed or a good attitude, whatever it is. Do good. This is a whole sermon in itself, it could be. So therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to those who belong to the family of believers. So he's saying, listen, do good to all. Where's that word all? Somewhere in here. Do good to all. There it is. But especially to the family of believers. So we have this responsibility and this privilege to do this. To restore, carry, and encourage. You know, a little over a month from now, Brody, Rita, and I, we're going to be taking a trip. I didn't know if you knew that, but we are taking a trip. We are going over to Europe, and we're going to be spending some time with 3 of our missionary families. It's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah, we're going to Spain to spend some time with the Gomez's, to Portugal to spend some time with my brother and his wife, and then also to Italy to spend some time with the Whitmans. And while we're over there, we're gonna record some of their story, record via video some of the things that are going on in the ministries, and find out a little bit more about what's it like to be a missionary. And it's going to be a super time. It's going to be really encouraging to them. It's going to be helpful to us. We'll be able to share the things that we're learning with you guys. And so to prepare for that, I've just been doing a ton of reading. And I've been reading a lot of books about being on mission with God. And one of the books I was reading this last week, it talked about biblical community. And I'm like, what do you know? I'm talking about biblical community this week. Maybe I'll see if I can steal a few things from there. And so I came across this list of characteristics of people who are connected to biblical community. And this is after I've been already preparing this other stuff. And so I thought I would see, do these things mesh at all? Right? Is this just, my imagination? Or is God really saying the same thing through multiple sources? And this is what I discovered. And it's in your notes. These are 5 things. We're not going to go through them very deeply, but we just want to read through 5 characteristics of people that are connected to biblical community. Number 1 is they have people with whom they are honest and transparent about their struggles with sin. And you can read about that in James 5. Let me ask, do you have somebody like that in your life? Somebody that you can be honest with, transparent with? Number 2, they gracefully confront sin in other believers and humbly accept correction brought by others. Galatians 6. Well, what do you know? That's what we were just talking about. Number 3, they willingly sacrifice in order to help carry each other's burdens. Once again, Galatians chapter 6. Number 4 is this. They celebrate and they see the value of God's unique giftedness and life experiences within each individual. We'll talk a little bit about that here in just a few minutes. And number 5, they practice hospitality that helps them nurture relationships. I mean, that's what community is all about. It's all of those things, and that's why we're so passionate about community at our church. After all, for crying out loud, it's in our name. Oh, by Community Church. Shouldn't we have a little bit more biblical community? I think so. All right, if we could have our panel, if you guys could come on up, make your way up here. You know who you are. All right. Let's stare at them awkwardly as they come on up. All right, it's that awkward moment where I don't really have much to say, which doesn't happen very often. So they're going to share with us a little bit. I've asked these people because they're all in community groups, and they're doing the things that we're talking about. So I want to get their perspective on things rather than just my own perspective or just the perspective of what you've heard before. So we're going to ask them a few questions. Oh, we need a microphone. Yeah, let's start with that. We're going to ask them a few questions, and we'll see how this goes. Are you excited about this? Yeah? Oh, it's a tough crowd, guys. I'm sorry about that. All right, you guys can share this microphone here. All right, so the first question is just tell us your name and how long you've been coming to Ojai.
Hi, I'm Jason. I believe this is my 4th week.
4th week, and he's on stage already. All right. All right.
My name's Jim McFall, and I started coming here about 3 years ago.
Hi, I'm Leslie Savansky, and we've been coming here 10 years.
10 years, the veteran. Yeah.
I'm Margaret Dickerson, and in January, I think it'll be 5 years.
All right, excellent, excellent. Isn't this wonderful? Now you know them. You're like, I've seen them before. I just can't remember their names. All right, just a few questions. First of all, this one's for Margaret and Leslie at the end. Tell us, though they're going to fight over who goes first. Nice. They're so kind. Tell us a little bit about your group. What is kind of the what's a typical night look like?
Okay, so for us, a typical night would look like we meet at 6 on Sunday night. So we gather in the kitchen, which is the first room we come into in our home, and snack a little, chat, kind of talk, and then I'm usually the one that says, okay, everybody, fill up your plate and let's go sit down and meet. We do that about 6:30, so we have a little time to catch up with everybody. And then we sit down, and lately we've been going around and just everybody sharing something about their week, something, good that's happened or bad, or, whatever, a time to share prayer requests at that time. And then we talk about the sermon that we heard in the morning and ways to apply that and encourage each other, and then we end with prayer.
Okay, and I'm in the Wednesday night group that meets up at Pastor Dave's house, and it's very similar. What I like about it is there's kind of a relaxed arrival time, so after work, sometimes you just can't get there on time, and everybody meets and snacks, and so if you walk in late, it's no big deal. And then we meet and we go and sit down and share a little bit about our week if we feel comfortable, something we're learning. And then we talk about the sermon, if there's time, and
There's usually a lot to talk about.
and then also sometimes we split into, women praying together at the end and men praying together then, which I kind of like.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. And we oftentimes just ask kind of a similar basic question. Hey, tell us something, tell us your worst moment of the week, your best moment of the week, something in between, something you're learning, something you've read, something you're being challenged with, a prayer request, a praise, or an update, and it's almost always those exact same things, and kind of go around the room, and it's pretty amazing how that happens. Jim, tell us a little bit about the demographics of at least of our group.
Well, it's pretty amazing. We have our age ranges, I think, go from late 20s up into the 60s. I have a couple that have yet to start their family, and we have people with kids in school and college. We have grandparents.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And we have such a wide range of where people are at and their walk with Christ. Some that have been away from the church for a long time, just now starting to get back. With me, I was away from it. Grew up in church, but then was away from it for 35 years. And I've been back about 3 years now, and all the way to where you. And so it's, and everything in between. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And we bring so many different viewpoints and just different perspectives that add to each other's lives.
Yeah, there's a huge variety there. Yeah, a lot of different life experience. Yeah. Very cool. Leslie, how about you?
We have a pretty wide range as well. We have late teen, a few late teens, all the way up to late 70s, mid to late 70s. So everything between. And what I find really neat and encouraging is that, as we share, other people can say, yeah, I've been there. The older ones can say, I've been there, or the younger ones know kind of what to look forward to, or we can kind of guide them to maybe not doing what we've done or whatever. And no matter who is sharing or whatever, we're all supportive, even if we don't really get where they're at right at that point. So,
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so there's a huge range. It's not just, we want to kind of point that out. It's not just like, well, this is all this, if you're in the 20s, this is where you're at. If you're in your 30s, this is where you're at. There's just huge varieties in demographics and age groups and stuff in our groups, which is an awesome thing. It's a great way to mentor each other and to encourage each other. We talk about bearing one another's burdens. It helps when somebody's already carried that burden to be able to help us to with the next level, or if we're dealing with a sin issue, for somebody that has been able to overcome some of those issues, to be able to speak into those struggles. So that's excellent. My next question is actually for Jason, and this, any of you guys can answer this one. I asked Jason specifically because he's only been here for 4 weeks, and yet he's already plugged into a group, which is just awesome. The question is, was there anything that you were nervous about before starting into a group?
Absolutely. If you couldn't tell, I made a couple of poor life choices. I happen to wear them right on my sleeve. And the biggest fear is Sunday morning, I want to put on my Sunday suit and be Mr. Spiritual. But on Wednesday, when there's only 15 or less people in the room, you get that interpersonality. You get the ability to open up, shed off a couple of layers. And the biggest fear is, as a human, I tend to judge people. And when I'm sharing myself, I can't help but feel that everybody else is going to be judging me too. And to just jump in and just unload some stuff, it was really amazing, actually, just the amount of compassion and grace, and it was just such a relief to make that step of trust and be rewarded by just excellent treatment by my group.
That's awesome. I love how you said my group. That's pretty cool. I don't know
Yeah,
if anybody else caught that?
I own it.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. Anybody else want to share anything about that topic as far as, something that you're nervous about, or?
Something I was worried about was not having a real good knowledge of the Bible at the time, and being beat up, being judged, and just being belittled, and that never happened.
Yeah.
I was encouraged and shown, maybe shown where I should maybe start to get more knowledge, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Anybody else? Good. Margaret was not afraid. Well, going into it, knowing that, I'm not quite sure what to think, what were some of the things that made you decide, hey, I'm going to try it anyway? Anybody can answer this.
A persistent neighbor.
A persistent neighbor. What? Jim lives over there, by the way. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Jeff and I have been involved with small groups for 20 years, and so it was always wherever we go. He was in the military, so we moved a lot. So wherever we went, we tried to find that group to plug into, and so for us, it was kind of a no-brainer. It was just something we do. We do a small group.
Excellent. Thanks.
It wasn't really a hard choice to go to a small group, primarily for the same reason that I was apprehensive to go. The changes that I have made in the past 2 months to my living situation kind of demanded that I jump in feet first and just see where the river takes me. I'd gotten way too comfortable in doing things for myself, and it didn't really work out so well. And to immediately jump into life experience with the elders of the church to get that sounding board to, even if I'm not saying anything, just the way they're interacting, is this a positive place? Is this a good place? Well, I'm dealing with this situation and they're talking about it. Maybe the 5 people that have shared on it are doing the right thing or can advise me on how to avoid some of the pitfalls. So honestly, just sitting and listening, gaining that life experience, I mean, it's invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah, so just even seeing and knowing the value of it, you know, is motivation enough, even if it's something that you're not sure about, you know, going to. Even if it makes you uncomfortable. You know, there are things we do that are uncomfortable all the time that we do because we see the value in it. And I don't really want to do this, but I know I should do this. And sometimes even going with it for that motivation is a positive thing. And then God slowly but surely changes our motives. And next thing you know, it's one of those things I can't imagine not being a part of one of those communities. Yeah, that's good. So real quick, anybody want to share what their favorite thing is about group?
I really like everything about it. I mean, from the moment I walk through the door, all the smiles and waves, and that's still fairly new to me as far as an experience. The genuineness of the joy of everybody seeing you, and they're getting to know me and my situations, and I'm getting to know them and their situations, and you can't really qualify how important such connections are. It's really amazing. It's been transformational.
Nice job with that word.
That was word.
Yeah, and you can only get a little bit of that on a Sunday morning. There's some of it you just can never experience until you get into one of those types of environments. Yeah, somebody else? Favorite thing?
Oh, I was just going to say, I love that we can talk over the sermon because it's another chance to kind of mull over what we've heard and kind of use each other as a sounding board, and we really try to figure out ways to apply what we've learned. But I also love our group because we're super fun. We have a good time.
You're not allowed to have fun. Yeah, it is fun.
I would say the friendships, you quickly notice the trueness of the friendship and the long-term commitment that the people make to you. You haven't experienced something like it, I would say. We all have friendships, we all need friends, but these people encourage you and seek you out. Specifically, you may have something that someone else is struggling with your group, and I've found that they don't let you rest until it's resolved. They care about you enough.
Yeah, that's huge. Go ahead.
One thing I love about it is it's taught me that being a Christian is a lot more about than just Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's huge. That's huge. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about, do you guys stay in contact with each other in between meetings? What's that like? You know, what's the relationship like with each other outside of the group? Or is it just, well, we put in our time and then we're done? Do you try to stay in contact with each other?
They're my best friends.
So yes. Yeah.
I mean, you talk to your best friends all day, every day, and individually, they're my best friends.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I would say, you know, I can just speak personally, but if I've been struggling with something or if there's something coming up during my week that is going to be a big deal, I often get a text message or a phone call or an email about how things are going.
Yeah.
So just that follow-up.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that personal touch to it. Yeah. Anybody else?
I met one of my best friends through a group,
Yeah.
and going through some struggles, I've been able to contact the members of my group, and they didn't just say, I'll pray for you. They said, let me pray with you.
Yeah. It's huge. Yeah, I know that there's like a constant contact in a lot of our groups. You know, I know our group, I think your group as well, Leslie, have like a Facebook group, you know, so you can share updates and prayer requests, you know, as they're happening. You know, and I know I can speak for our group, is that when somebody says, hey, I've got this thing, or, you know, we're going to this thing, this appointment, or I've got whatever it is, within minutes, there's pray, just pray. I'm praying right now. You know, it's just that quick, that there's that contact, that immediately, and to know that people are praying for you and they've got your back is just, you can't put a price tag on that. Yeah. Margaret.
Just one thing I was going to say is, I've talked about they're being my best friends and stuff, but I've also noticed personally how the change in how I treat other friends, and
Yeah.
so it's definitely carried over to my other relationships.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. Yeah. Anybody want to share what maybe the greatest impact has been on your life? Whether it's an impact or something that, you know, an area where you've challenged or you've grown in?
Okay, I'll go. Oh, sorry, Jim, you want?
4 years ago, I didn't even talk about my faith to my wife. Look where I'm at now.
Life's changed. That's huge. Thanks, Jim.
I think early on, in the first couple weeks that I was going to small group, God convicted me right away. I had kind of had a pride about my relationship with Jesus, and that it was mine and it was good enough. I defended it actually, but I actually had 0 Bible study time, 0. But I had I had you know, a daily prayer life, and I listened to Christian music all day. But I think we got in an argument a little bit about
It was a healthy dialogue.
But as soon as I got in, you know, just growth just started from there. So that's the biggest. And then I fell away, and then I started again with the aid of my group.
Yeah. And once again, pity on the person who has no one to help them up. Right? So that's awesome. So who won that argument? Anyway, just... It wasn't an argument, it was a healthy dialogue. Just...
I'd say definitely the biggest growth that I've had is just a daily boost in God awareness. Is probably the easiest way to say it. Driving down the road on Thursday morning, hey, we were talking about this. I didn't used to think like this. This is awesome. Thank you, God. And just Saturday afternoon, well, my toast got a little burnt, but that's okay because I still have toast to eat. And just a different mode of gratitude that's been slowly incorporating. And it's only been 4 weeks, so I mean, imagine a year.
Yeah.
Must be walking around like this all the time.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Anybody else? Area you've been challenging, something, a place where you've grown a lot? You know, you kind of touched on all those things really throughout. All right, final question. What would you tell somebody who's considering a group? And maybe, and I want you to think that this person I'm going to talk to, they're going to give me all excuses as to why I shouldn't. Well, I'm too busy, I don't have any nights free, I've got all this stuff going on. But, you know, I'd like to, I'm considering. What would you tell somebody that just they're considering?
Just do it. Come with me and sit next to me.
All right, yeah, excellent.
It'll change life, but you have to put into it in order to get out.
Yeah, that's huge. Yeah,
You know, I would just say, give it a try, you know, come for a few weeks and see what you think. I think you'd be surprised.
yeah. Yeah, excellent.
I would say talk to somebody about your reservations about group. Don't keep it inside. Don't just keep in your head that none of the groups are going to fit you. Just start the conversation and give one a try.
Yeah, excellent.
bear in mind, there's food there.
Also food. That didn't come up as one of my favorite things. I figured somebody would say, well, my favorite thing is the snacks. Actually, I know some people, their favorite thing is packing snacks. Most of our small groups, they pack snacks for, right? Yeah, pack snacks for the Baldwinsburg School program. We're trying to help feed some hungry children, so that's one of the things that we do. So, excellent. Good job, everybody. Give them a hand. Weren't they awesome? Man, it's so exciting to be a part of that and to see that and to see people's lives that are changed. And it's not just words. You know, when I'm listening to these stories, hopefully when you're listening to their stories, you know that there's a lot more that's going on than just a simple little answer there. There's a lot more behind those stories. And you got an opportunity and a privilege to be a part of one of those stories. That could be your story. So I'm not sure, where you are, if you're, in a group, if you're considering it, you really need to. I know we talk about it, and perhaps you resist it for whatever reason. Whatever that reason is, put it before God and say, God, is this legit? Is this something I should do? I challenge you. Get involved. In fact, I want to wrap things up with just 3 ways that we can put this into practice. We're talking about biblical community. Here's 3 ways that we can put this into practice. It's in your notes. Number 1 is this: is practice hospitality. Practice hospitality. Hospitality is a bit of a lost art in our independent culture. We kind of drive past our neighbors' houses and we slip into our garage, close the garage door, head right into the house, and then go out on the back deck instead of the front porch. We've kind of lost some of that has been so characteristical. I don't know if that's a word. It is now characteristical of previous generations. It characterized them, right? That they were just automatically hospitable. They didn't know what a stranger looked like because they just were always friendly to people. So try that. Be hospitable to people. Open up your home. Get to know some people. Invite somebody over. Really, if you think about it this way, and maybe this will be a little bit scary, maybe this is why you don't invite people into your home. Inviting people into your home is like inviting them into your life. And maybe you're like, I don't want to invite people in my life. I got a verse for you. Okay, I got a verse for you. It's in 1 Peter 4:9. 1 Peter 4:9 says, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. You know what that means? Because some people say, well, I'm just not good at that. I'm not naturally, I've got so many things going on. We've got all these excuses. He says, listen, do it without grumbling. Put your excuses aside. Lose the attitude about it. Just do it. Practice hospitality. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. You know what? Everything that you have has been a gift that's been given to you. It is. Everything that you have is a gift that's been given to you. We're called to be stewards of that. And we use those things that we receive to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Your house is something that God has graced you with. The relationships that you have with other people, something that God has given you. And you can use that to offer hospitality to other people. Number 2 is this: have an accountability partner. Have an accountability partner. We've kind of already talked about this, so I won't say a lot. But perhaps even in your community group, there may be some things that you don't want to share with the entire group, and you need to find that 1 or 2 people. Like it talks about in Ecclesiastes, 2 are better than 1, and a cord of 3 strands. Maybe 10 people or 15 people is still too many people. But there's that 1 or 2 people that you need to share some other things with. You see this in Proverbs 27:17. It says, iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And then in Proverbs 17:17 it says, a friend loves at all times, and a brother is born for times of adversity. You need somebody like that. Do you have somebody like that? Are you like that to somebody else? Somebody that you can share your struggles with, somebody that you trust. Have an accountability partner. Number 3, this should be an obvious one: engage in a community group. Engage in a community group. Now notice I didn't say just go to a community group, but engage in one. Jim mentioned it. He said, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. You've got to invest in it. You've got to engage in it. Get plugged into it. Listen, I think everybody needs a group. And not only does everybody need a group, but there's somebody in a group that needs you to be a part of their group. We're the body of Christ. Hebrews 10:24 and 25 says it this way. He says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on to love and good deeds, not giving up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing. I don't know if the writer of Hebrews had somebody in mind. I don't know if he looked up, as some people do, as some are in the habit of doing. But, if that's you, maybe he's talking to you. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but encouraging one another. And all the more as you see the day approaching. As things continue to get worse, as things continue to escalate, we need to do it even more. At our community groups, we practice what we refer to as the ABCs. And everybody said it. They just didn't say it like ABCs. Okay? But you listen to their stories, or you listen to their answers, and they're going to talk about these things, the ABCs. Is that number one, we apply the Bible to life. We take the things that we're talking about here, and we try to figure out how do we actually do this? What would this look like on Monday? Not just on a Sunday morning service. We apply the Bible to life. B is we build authentic relationships. These are my best friends. We build authentic relationships. And C, we care for one another. Care for each other. That's what the ABCs are. Currently, we've got, 7 groups that are going on right now, and we're going to continue to add more as we have more people to get involved. If you're not sure where those groups meet, you can check out our website. We've got those listed there. You can talk to myself or Brody or Rita. We would love to get you plugged in to a group where you can engage and where your life can be changed. In fact, as a church, we've simplified a lot of things. If you've been coming for a long time, 10, 15, 20 years, there's things that we don't do anymore. We've tried to simplify and only do the things that we feel are absolutely necessary and then invest in those things. And community groups is one of those things that we're going to continue to do because it is so valuable and it's so important to us because we're created for it. We believe that life is better when we're connected. We believe that circles are better than roads. My prayer is that you're going to experience the kind of life change that you've seen up here, the kind of life change that you can only experience in the context of biblical community. Why? Because we get tired, we get weary, we struggle. There are things that we have difficulty with. We have problems, we have issues that need to be resolved. Right? We all have those things. This whole series has been about spiritual solutions to common problems. Paul tells the church in Galatia, let us not become weary in doing good. With all of your problems, with all of your struggles, with all the things that are going on, let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest. And can I tell you, as a church, I think we're at that time where we are starting to see people's lives changed in ways that I've never seen before in our church. We will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, and they are all around us, just open up, look around. The fields are white unto harvest. There's opportunities everywhere we look. There are people that need the compassion of Jesus spread out on their lives. So as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people, especially to the family believers. That includes you. Will you stand? Let me pray with you.